It's exactly 2 months today since Kenyans went to the polls and elected a new president while adding another retired president into its list. But just how do constituencies or counties represented by presidents fare on long after a president retires? Kenyans Philip Keitany visited Baringo, represented by former President Daniel Moi until 2002, and filed this report.
The late 70s to the early 2000s, Baringo County, then Baringo District, was considered as District Number 1 due to its proximity to the seat of power at the time. But 10 years down the line, since the retirement of the former president, who was also the area member of parliament, things have been falling apart in Baringo, starting from the roads, leaving the people of Baringo asking themselves, who moved their cake? Despite Baringo County being endowed with abundant natural resources, it has lagged behind in development mainly due to insecurity and poor infrastructure. During the 24-year reign of former President Daniel Moi, most parts of the county were connected by good quality roads. But 10 years into his retirement, this is what has remained of those roads.
Tunaona kama tumewachwa kidogo kwa sababu wakati wakati alikuwa naenda cabinet, watu wa ministry wangekuja kutangulia, wanaweka potholes, lakini ukianzia saa hii hapa paka cabinet unaona unapita barabara kama shamba.
The county has numerous amazing viewpoints, yet it appears it can no longer make any revenue from the same due to the bad roads that have seen both local and foreign tourists shun the region for other well-serviced areas, denying it the much-needed revenue.
We are Kenyans, we are paying taxes. Tunaomba serikali atusaidie.
Hata msitu kutoka hapa mpaka hata huko Kabarnet ni mbali, naweza hata kusumbua mtu mpaka hata naweza kupiga mahali naenda.
The state of these roads have not only made life difficult for the people of this area, but the fact that the cost of transportation has more than tripled over the last 5 years. But it has also denied the people of this county the frequent visit that the former President Daniel Moi used to pay them, mostly over the weekends. And the residents of Baringo are now asking, will this be the case in other 10 years? After Kibaki's retirement or Kibaki's government did turn a blind eye on Baringo.
Naona hata siku hizi amekuwa mzee, angekuwa anatembea hata nyumbani kila saa, lakini sauri ya barabara inaonekana kama iko shida kukuja.
Infrastructure is not the only piece of investment that has suffered since Moi retired, with education performance in the region also on a nosedive, with schools like Kapro Peter Girls, Baringo High, Kabarnet Boys, Kituro High School having disappeared from the radar of the best performing schools in the country. But despite the hard times gone by, the level of optimism that things are looking up is high.
You remember during that time, His Excellency the President, the second President of the Republic, was the chairman of Baringo High School, the chairman of Kapropita, the chairman of Kabarnet, the chairman of Sacho. Can you see that? So everything, support system of social infrastructure at that time was connected to State House. When Mzee retired, for example, then you have to have what we call a culture shock affecting all those infrastructure.
Baringo's main economic activity is livestock rearing and beekeeping. Crop cultivation is also done, but mainly in small scale. Tourism is another source of revenue for Baringo, which has a variety of sites for holiday makers, such as the famous hot springs of Lake Bogoria, coupled with the availability of geothermal power. The county has all it requires to grow if this potential can be tapped well. Apart from all that, this county is also faced by insecurity brought about by cattle rustling, which is currently one of the biggest problems the new leaders have to tackle here.
There are some leaders who are using these young men to go look for cattle, because they are paid on what we call primary price, where they take a cow for 7,000 or 10,000 per cow. By the time it is in Nyahururu, it is 30,000 or 40,000. By the time it is at the port, it is 120,000.
Nobody wants this thing. And what we need to do is to look at the short-term solution. How can we be able to identify the culprits? Because these are basically highway robbers. The only difference is that they don't rob cars. They actually rob animals.
The banditry sometimes take a political dimensions, with some communities complaining of being marginalized, as well as the vice being commercialized by some local leaders.
The consistency with which this thing happens points to a different direction. And when you ask the people, the leaders of the area, they say that these are just thieves. There's a difference between rustling to marry and stealing for your benefit.
With the new leadership, the county's future looks bright as it plans to bring back the lost glory, with the new governor promising to improve or revive sectors such as irrigation at the Perkera irrigation scheme that is yet to be fully exploited. Now that the country has ushered in a new president into office and added another retiring president into its lists, questions abound as to how the counties that were being represented by the retiring heads of states will be managed to maintain their pride. Philip Keitany, Keityan, Baringo County.